Tim Petrowich for Dateline Marion and WGGH Radio, and we're here with first-year Marion head football coach Jason Dunning. And how long is it going to be, first of all, before you get tired of hearing that?
I don't know. That's a good question. Now, if you were to ask my daughter, I think she's already tired of it. She's ready this to be Coach Dunning and Dad, and let's move on. But no, it's still exciting. It's still kind of new. I think I was hoping that it would come at some point. I think one of the weird realities, one of the unique realities, was Friday night at the Blue Gold game. Because it's the first time I've kind of been around a crowd, so to say. But they gave a nice little intro to Coach Martin. Crowd gave him a big standing ovation, which they should. And then they did a little introduction, and they said it for the first time in Wildcat Stadium. And there was a very, very, very humbling and very pleasant crowd applause. And that was the first time that I think hearing it really took things away for a second. Took the reality of things that, not that it hadn't sunk in as far as job-wise, but hearing it and being here around the Wildcat fans, and I was very appreciative of that moment.
I want to talk about personnel, about the upcoming game with Herrin first, or later on. But first, there's a few things we need to talk about. First of all, just talk about how the off-season's gone and the preparation and kind of the excitement coming in, because this is a program that's been in the playoffs 17 consecutive times now, and a lot of expectations. And we've talked before about how not only is it the fans and the community that has those expectations, but it's the kids on the field.
Yes, absolutely. As far as the excitement, it's been very, very similar, Tim, to every other year. Because we realize after the season's over, we take a break. As a staff, we get together. What do we need to work on? What do we need to tweak? We're ready come November to start our off-season training, because we're excited about the next step, the future, what's coming, getting this group ready. And I've been a part of it for so long that there wasn't any new change, any new excitement other than what's already been there before. So I think if you were to ask me about any other job, yeah, because it's all new. But those expectations don't just go with the players and the fans and the team. It goes with the coaching staff. And so we hit the ground running as if it were any other of the previous years. So, yeah, I mean, the off-season stuff leading up to this, it's been as is, the part of the course, because it's what we as a staff have done together for so long that I'm now replacing Coach Martin, but the expectations, they're still the same priority list that we have of winning season, win homecoming, make the playoff. All those things are still our driving force, because it's what we've done since 2002.
You were fortunate enough, and this is something else that we've talked about, to get almost all of the coaching staff back.
Correct.
You got Coach Wimberly kind of stepped away from his active role on the sideline into a more of a scouting and film review role. Obviously, Coach Martin has stepped aside too. But that being said, the one thing you've talked about time after time after time since you were named to this position is the process remains the same. The offense doesn't change, the defense doesn't change, maybe a couple of new people involved with the leadership, but the whole process remains the same.
Coach Martin said for years, and I think based on what's happened in the past couple seasons, if he was doing his job as a mentor, as the head coach at the time, he should be able to step away and the program continue. And this is just a prime example of, Coach Skeet's been here for the entire duration. I've been here for the entire duration. Coach Vinoy came a couple years after. Shu's been a part of it for a long, long time. Cody Pauls has been a part. So we as a collective staff have been through this, and we've done it the same way, and we've all added our own little tweaks along the way to make it what it is now. So yes, Coach Martin has stepped away. Coach Wimberly's taken a backseat role. But how practice goes and the expectations that have been ingrained in us for so many years, that's part of the process. It's part of the program. So I told someone the other day, if loyal Marion fans are coming out and they're expecting to see things very similar, they're going to be 100% correct. Other than a little tweaks that we normally do, we've kept everything as is, status quo, and that's because all along the way, if we've seen things that we can tweak and fix and adjust, we pick up something from another staff, we add it in the program. That becomes the identity of who we are. And so telling the kids from the first meeting that, hey guys, you already know the process. Yes, I'm now at the head. Everything else, the expectations are still there. The responsibility, the development of players, not just on the field, but the leadership, the culture, it's all continued. The vocabulary that we use has remained the same, and it will as long as I'm here and we're still a part of this program. We're going to keep it. We're going to keep following that same recipe. That recipe has been successful, and we're going to try to keep doing the same thing that we've always done and try to make this the best we can.
There's going to be a question I'm sure that people are going to ask. You know, you've got a coach in Coach Martin that was a quarterback and worked a lot with quarterbacks during his tenure as head coach here, and now he's stepped aside and a defensive guy's in charge. And Marion's had some good quarterbacks, and the quarterback has been the key to a lot of their offense. And how do you keep that going? And you figured a way out with a guy you brought in on the staff to
yes.
kind of step in and work with quarterbacks.
Yeah, so we've got Matt Brown back on staff officially. You know, he had some stuff and he had to kind of step away, but he's back and he's doing some quarterback coaching and he's a part, you know, and yeah, you've got a defensive guy, but one of the many, many, many lessons that I've learned from Coach Martin over the years is, you know, if you're not good at something, you find guys that are really, really good at it. And we've kept the right people on the bus. We got Matt grabbing his luggage, getting back on the bus, and it is fun to come up here and listen to the voices that are in this room planning the offense. Yeah, Coach Martin's is gone, but the guys that are here still do an amazing job, and I am very, very fortunate and lucky to have those guys remaining, being a part. And that's why I think if you asked, and I think we talked about this, if you asked me what I would want in my first head coaching experience, it would be this. It would be stepping up into a position where you have been a part of for so long. You know the players know you, you know the coaches, the administration. It's been a seamless transition there. And getting Matt working with quarterbacks, yes, I expect that the quarterback is going to still develop and still be the trigger man and run this offense. And it's funny, in the interview they said, so now that you're head coach, are you going to start calling offense? I'm like, no. I said, for all these years, I've stuck on my side of the ball. I said, Coach Martin has been on the offensive side for all these years. And I think where he was lucky, you know, and I may be wrong, I may be off a number, but I think in Coach Martin's coaching career, I think he's had just 3 defensive coordinators. He had a guy from the days of Florida named Doug Ebelin.
Right.
Then when he came to Carterville, Jeff Sema became the defensive coordinator.
And Jeff came over.
Jeff came over when we came in 2002, and then when Jeff left, I became the defensive coordinator. So as a head coach, he's been, kind of that same situation, roles reversed, of having guys on his staff that have done the defensive side for so long that he felt very comfortable in allowing us to coach, and I'm going to try to reciprocate that as much as I can and say, hey, I'm not going to try to come over here. This will be my 25th season as a coach, and I've had little parts on offense. I help out where I can, but I've been a defensive guy, and I'm going to let those offensive guys do what they do because they're dang good at what they're doing. And Friday night was really the first time that we brought the headsets out, and I've got a headset and Skeet has a headset that allows us to hear both sides. And just periodically clicking over and just listening to those guys talk. They've got a different verbiage, but they are on the same page. And Matt, Coach Vanoy, and Skeet, and Coach K is now helping out. And it took a lot off the plate of planning, of just going, hey, let these guys do what they do. They've been there, they've been in some big ball games, and they have been right there along Coach Martin's side, scheming things. And I know that, yes, Coach Martin is not officially on the roster or is officially on the coaching staff, but he still has some input. He still is talking, and because I think in coaching you often hear about it, this coaching tree of who you go to. Yeah. We've got our core group of guys that we talk to for ideas and resources, and he will always be, because I played for him, Coach Vanoy played for him, Skeet's been a part for the entire time. That's who we go to. That's who we still talk to on ideas. Matt Brown played for him, so they talk about quarterback ideas and how I'm training our three guys that we have at that position.
Every job, you talked about the smooth transition, everything working the same. Everything has a hiccup.
Yep.
And you came into a hiccup this week, and I think by the end of this week, you and everybody else are going to really be sick and tired of hearing the phrase wet bulb globe temperature.
Yes. And I jokingly, Monday, I went in and I just asked our trainer, which he's a great guy. We've had a couple situations, couple of hiccups, and he just happens to be the bearer of the bad news. It's not his fault. We get that.
Right.
But when the frustration kind of boils over, you got to turn and you get frustrated at somebody, and he's the one that told you the news. But I jokingly said to him, because I needed some humor and some sarcasm, and I just said, hey, AJ, if that thing goes missing, am I suspect number one? And he started laughing. And I think Mr. Yudisky started laughing, going, okay, if we can't find it, we need to find Coach Dunning, because, yeah. But, here at Marion, we are very, very fortunate to have the facilities that we have. And, but there's a coaching lesson in there that I'm learning. And we try to teach it to the guys that there's going to be adversity. How do you handle that adversity? And we talk about stealing from Urban Meyer, in every situation, you've got the event, which is the heat, the wet bulb, and then our response is something that we can control. We can get aggravated and gripe about it, but it doesn't matter. You can't do it. But then we're able to teach to our kids, okay, how we respond to it, we control, and that then determines the outcome. So, yeah, we've had to make some adjustments, but our kids have handled it the way they always have. They're not happy, but we adjust, we move inside, we can have a great practice there. We change our practice time. By the time we get done with film, I walk out and I find AJ, and he says, hey, you're good. So we get to the field, we get to work. It's not our normal time, but we kind of flip the roles and go, hey, we're out here, and it is now 6:45, and on Saturday night we'll be on the field getting ready to kick it off against the Herrin Tigers at 6:45 with a 7 o'clock game time.
And there's got to be some benefit too to practicing under the lights and getting acclimated to lights, as well as
Correct.
heat and humidity. You have to get used to practicing under or playing under the lights too.
Correct, and that's why Friday night. I know a lot of coaches don't like the blue gold game. You've been going against each other for 2.5 weeks. Offense knows the defense. Defense knows the offense. We're giving calls. They know exactly what we're doing. It's hard to look good when you go against yourself, but I think there are some benefits playing under the lights, playing in front of a crowd, music, and just having the extra energy. And our kids had a good scrimmage, which we just tried to paraphrase to them. It's a glorified practice for us. They're out. Everybody come out. They're excited about seeing the new Marion Wildcats, and and I was leaving, and someone said, "Looks like the same product," and I said, "That's our goal. Keep things looking as similar as what they always have been." And so it was fun. But yeah, getting ready, being able to practice under the lights is special.
Let's talk about the South 7 Conference. Obviously, it looks a little bit different with Althoff not being there, but I'm looking at the teams, and I'm thinking Mount Vernon's going to be pretty good, and Cahokia is always good and athletic, and Carbondale's not going to be all that bad, and Centralia is always competitive, and you're only talking about 4 opponents, but there's not a week off in that schedule.
There's no week off, no. And then you throw in some of the other teams. I mean, say what you want to about the Herrin Tigers. Last year on paper, going into it, you should have expected to see a huge Marion victory. But we know that Coach Perry and the rest of his coaching staff, and when you bring a rivalry game in week 1, you better be prepared. And then you bring in 2 bigger schools. You bring in now Granite City and Collinsville into the schedule as, I don't know what we're using to describe them. They're on a probationary trial South 7 basis, but there's 2 schools that are double our size. So you bring them, plus those 4 games that you talked about. Hey, our schedule it's challenging every week. So we got to come out, we got to practice well and be ready to go week in and week out.
So we've talked a little bit about this. You feel like as the Marion Wildcats looking at the rest of the conference, Mount Vernon and Cahokia are probably the 2 teams that really stand out to you.
Yes. I mean, Mount Vernon, Coach Mings has that team rolling. We saw it last year. Granted, they lost a few. We lost a few kids to graduation, but they're still going to be big up front. They're still going to be fast. The rumor is that they may be one of the quickest defenses that we've seen in a long time. But you add Mount Vernon, you add Cahokia, who Cahokia is, Carbondale with a senior quarterback that's been playing there what seems like forever. It's going to be a season that anybody could win the league, and anybody could absolutely struggle in the league week in and week out. South 7 football is talented, and it's going to be an interesting season.
You mentioned some of those non-conference games. Of course, Granite City is a game that's been brought back to the schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Marion used to play Granite City all the time, and they're one of the largest schools in that metro area. Collinsville has had recent success since they left the Southwestern Conference in football. They've had success. They went 8-1 in the regular season last year. So a couple of teams that are going to really put the Wildcats to the test.
Absolutely. Collinsville, as you said, 8-1, and they were a 7A playoff team last year. But yeah, we don't have I know this. We've got contracts out there for 9 ball games, so we've got 9 opponents that are going to come in ready to play, and we've got to be able to match that. But bringing those 2 teams in, Granite City and Collinsville, are bigger schools that I think will be on the rise just for the fact that they're not playing in that conference.
Yeah.
And and I've talked about it with other people, and I think you and I have talked about it. If I was a player at either of those schools 4 or 5 years ago, unless I just absolutely love the game of football, I'm not so sure when you look at who they play with Edwardsville and O'Fallon and East St. Louis going. And I just saw in the thing the other day that East St. Louis is number 25 in the nation.
Right.
And I mean, they are absolutely loaded with athletes. And last year they played Don Bosco and IMG Academy, and they're traveling and playing some big-time dudes and contenders for that 6A title every year going, I don't know if I want to play, but now they're an independent, and now they're on a probationary trial with the South 7. I may play this game. And they've got, nearly 2,000 kids, if not more than that. And that'll be a challenge, but we will deal with Collinsville week 7 and deal with Granite City. You and I will be talking about it next week.
Probably the one wild card on the schedule is Christian County, Kentucky.
Yep.
We can figure out about the Illinois schools, and Mattoon's been on the schedule for several years, but Christian County, Kentucky is kind of a wild card.
I don't know. Yeah, and we've tried to do. We know a little bit about him. Big athletic quarterback. I think after seeing last year's film, they remind us a lot of Cahokia. But I know they took a loss. They took a loss Friday night. And it was strange that this time last year we were planning on playing Hopkinsville.
Right.
And then Kentucky redistricted things, and now we're playing same field, same date, same time, but we're playing the county school, not the city school. And this is it's a 1-year deal because next year those two are merging into one of Kentucky's biggest, if not the biggest, high school in the state of Kentucky. So it's a 1-year deal, and who the Wildcats are going to play week 4, we don't know yet. That's still open for 24.
Well, let's talk about the Wildcats some.
Okay.
Obviously, when you talk about the Wildcats, you take a look at the running game, and the stable is pretty healthy with Jordan Beverly and Patrick Walker in the backfield.
Absolutely. And those are two kids that, last year Patrick was kind of the lead horse, and then he got kind of dinged up, and then Jordan came in and finished the last 4, 5, 6 games on a tremendous streak. He was getting some major yardage in those ball games. But yeah, those two are going to be the workhorses that our guys, our offense, are figuring out creative ways to get them the ball and putting both of those guys on the field at times. It can be special trying to defend them. Those two.
Kind of a hallmark of Marion's offense has been a lot of people touching the ball, and we saw a couple others in the scrimmage. You mentioned Ryan Colon is one.
Correct.
You've got some guys who can run, and you've got some guys who can catch passes too.
Yeah, we're young, but we've got some talented kids that we can spread out all over the field. We've got some receivers in Sam Atkins and Will True and Aiden Pickles and Amarion Owen, Jaden Speranio, the guys that can catch the ball. We got those two guys in the backfield that can run. They can catch the ball out in space. Our screen game, that the Marion Wildcats look very similar to what we always have. That's our plan.
Sophomore quarterback. I think the last time Marion started a sophomore quarterback, that guy is now on the coaching staff. And so talk about that kind of connection and how Callahan Roper's maybe developed a little bit this year.
We've known Callahan coming up through the junior high athletics. He's been around. His brother played for us a few years ago. We knew Callahan was he's always kind of been the leader, kind of the quarterback of that group. And we thought maybe it was going to be another year before you saw Callahan, but due to situations and players deciding what they want to do, Callahan's just kind of fallen into this role, and he's taken it and done a very, very good job up to this point. And I think between his off the field on his own, working with Matt Brown, working with Coach Martin, his knowledge of the game is there. His knowledge of the game is already there with some of the quarterbacks that we've had in the past. Would I like to kind of hold him back and have someone else for maybe another year or so? I don't know. But this is the hand we're dealt. And he's done a very good job through camp of distributing the ball, managing the offense. He's got a good enough arm that he can throw the ball downfield. But he, it's like one of those coaching coaching thoughts, coaching cliches that quarterbacks, especially young quarterbacks, they don't have to win you ball games. He's just got to be able to manage the game, not turn it over, not lose us games. And I think he understands that role, much like on the basketball court. He's able to distribute the ball. He's able to be kind of the leader and get the ball where he needs to go. And he's very cerebral. He sees stuff. Now, once we can get his physical skills to match up with that, I think he's going to be a talented quarterback for the next couple of years.
I don't know a whole lot about him, but what I've seen, in junior high and early in high school, he's not the fastest kid afoot or anything like that, but he's got that kind of attitude of things just roll off of his shoulders, and he deals with it and doesn't get overly excited, but he gets the job done.
He gets the job done. And one of the other things I love about Callahan, he's a competitor. This whole sophomore class, they compete. You see it in what they do. They compete. Aiden and Will both started baseball at times for the varsity this year. They're athletic. And Callahan's right there. They play basketball. Junius Thomas plays basketball. Sam Atkins plays basketball. So this is a very, very, they've had success. And you add them with Patrick and Jordan, Ryan Colon back there, and we're able to move the ball. It's going to be spreading it around. We have to. That's our identity. That's who we are.
Big hole you have to fill from last year is that defensive line. You had probably 5 or 6 all-conference caliber linemen on the defensive side, and they're pretty much all gone. So talk about that.
So they're gone, and I knew it was happening. And I mean, obviously, but this past June when we had the All-Star game, and I think you or someone had a picture of it. I think maybe Justin took a picture of it. It was all 4 of them out there, and it was very surreal to the fact of going, okay, they're gone. But we've got some guys that are replacing them and doing a very good job. And once again, 2 of those guys are sophomores, which I know I keep repeating that. And there's a lot of sophomores that are going to get some very, very valuable playing time. And I think about going, okay, get them there. And we've had it before. I told 2 of them. Player just graduated a couple years ago, Clayton Tanner, was a tremendous defensive end. But he, as a sophomore, was thrown down there in the land of the giants at a very small frame kid, and he had to battle and play. And so far, these guys have jumped in. They don't know any difference. They just go out there and play and run and try to execute the defense as best they can. Do I wish they were a little bit bigger? Absolutely. But that was a special group. That was a special group that all 4 of them, and in preparation for the Herrin game, watching last year's film, is kind of going, dang it, I wish I had some of those guys. But our guys are doing well. Adding in to the 2 sophomores there, and Alex Henry and Malachi Cooper. We've got Aiden down there. We've also got Titus Garnett down there. Aiden Minton is a big sophomore kid that is still trying to get his feet wet down there, but he's a big bodied kid that's playing down there as a junior. Jackson Jacobs is down there. We've got Drew Vaughn, a baseball kid that coming out for football for the first time, but he's battling. He's battling down there in the trenches. But yeah, I think our defensive line isn't that quality, but they're going to be athletic. They're going to compete. They're going to battle. And once again, it goes back to the expectations of Marion football. This is how we do things.
Let's talk about the Herrin Tigers.
Okay.
It's coming up.
It's coming up.
Just a few days away. hear different things. Not the numbers may be down. Don't have a whole lot of experience. But what we do know about Herrin is the thing you mentioned. It's a big rivalry, so you don't have to worry about whether or not they're going to be motivated. They've got some special athletes on that team, especially in the skill positions.
They do. They've got the Nelson kid, who won state in the 100 and 200 as a freshman. He I believe won and came in second in one of those events this year. But they've got Nelson, they've got Lukens, they've got the big kid at quarterback playing, that has been a receiver, is now playing quarterback. They've got the Vaughn kid, who's going to be a heck of a player, good kid on defense. Yeah, they've got, and then Lukens in the mix, who has been playing basketball, seems like forever. But I watch them and know they're athletic. They will compete, and despite their low numbers this year in the program, they're going to come out ready to go, because this is what it is. It's Herrin Marion. It's a rivalry, and when you're successful, that target on your back gets really, really big, and everybody wants a piece. And I would expect nothing different from the Herrin Tigers, and we've been preaching it to the kids all summer long, that you better come out ready to go, because they are going to want to defend their home turf, and they're going to want to make it a ball game early.
This is the third year that the rivalry's been resumed, and in the first two games, I think the first year was 13-0 at halftime. Last year was 7-0 at halftime. It's always a battle.
It's always a battle, and that's what's fun. That's what's special about high school football. Put all the previous things aside, and if you go back even before, those last few games before the rivalry kind of took a break, 2 games were won 21-14 on defensive stands. And then they got us one year, and I think in the last 5, I think there was only one real blowout game, and it wasn't a blowout until the second half. Early it was tight, and then we had a kind of a kickoff return or a kick return, one of the two, and then it kind of got out of hand a little bit from there. But they're going to come out, and I understand, and we bring in some special motivation coming into it, and any type of competitor wants to take that. And it's the first game at home, and they've got speed, and they've got dudes, and we've got to know where those kids are, which we work on a lot in practice. But I fully expect to see Herrin's A game, because they would love nothing more than to be a spoiler and defend their home turf and get us coming out week 1.
All right. Well, it's coming up on Saturday night, 7 o'clock at Herrin. This is Marion head football coach Jason Dunning. For Dateline Marion and WGGH, I'm Tim Petrowich.